Hi, my name is Vahan Davudyan. I'm a physics experimentalist for 30 years. I have always conducted so many experiments from the famous scientists and then replicated, and then I learned a lot. And these last 30 years, my great inspiration came from not only the physics, but also nature, animals, insects, and plants. Well, in fact, today is something different because we are talking about René Descartes, French mathematician. But before I start my theory, I like to thank YouTube, because YouTube is amazing cooperation. And I started like 10, 15 years ago, I remember. They provide a fantastic, comprehensive work, and without the YouTube, we could not do anything. And in fact, when I uploaded my theories like 3 months ago, that was great success. In less than 3 months, there was like 4,000 people watched, and they loved it. Some people even called me, emailed me, but I just wanted to thank YouTube for providing this fantastic opportunity. And in fact, I came up with this science idea. I call the YouTube synapse, which is the junction in a human brains, and billions of neurons are connected, and the synapse is kind of connecting between, is exactly like internet, like people, they're connecting everything together. And my analogy for the YouTube was synapse. And I'm glad I came up with this idea, because they are providing, it's beyond my imagination how good they are. And then I'm hoping one day I can repair the kindness, even though it's free, you know. But you know, this is the way we can learn. If I don't upload my ideas, if I don't upload my science ideas, nobody knows who I am, nobody knows which one of my theories is substantiated, which is not. But overall, when we upload or post our videos on YouTube, people learn a lot. Because how do I know who this scientist is? When I go online and then I realize they're talking about general relativity or special relativity. Some of them are good, some of them are not comprehensive, and then I learn. And then we can even get in touch, get their email, and then we can also exchange views. And that is my main idea, that YouTube is providing this fantastic service, and then it is connecting like internet, everybody together. So, I mean, it's just amazing. Probably sometimes some people are watching YouTube maybe 2-3 hours a day, because they love science. So this is the way I love it, and I just want to thank YouTube, and I'm hoping that in next few weeks I will upload more, at least 10 more theories, and most of these new ones are about the insects, it's about animals, and it's about plants. And especially today, it's an amazing person. His name is René Descartes, French mathematician, which he was inspired by a fly, which was one of the greatest ideas in the history of science. And he was always sick, he was poor health, and then his great inspiration came from fly, housefly, and I have to explain it. Then you put he came up with the Cartesian coordinate. And imagine, without the coordinate, we get lost in space. It is so important in our life, coordinates. That's how important they are. Let me go ahead and post this, and then I can explain more about the René Descartes. So he was French mathematician, and he had good ideas about space, about space and time, and even relativity and everything else. But this was a special. Yeah, his name was René Descartes. And let me read one more time. This is my theory today. Descartes' coordinates, inspired by fly, by Vahan Davudyan, physics experimentalist. My email is vahandavudyan@aol.com. I have to quote exactly what he said when he discovered that fly was flying in his room when he was in bed, and then he charted, or he came up with this amazing inspiration that, you know, the fly is always flying from the same intersection, and then, you know, from north to south, east to west, and up and down, and intersecting in exactly the same point. And then he said chart. He wanted to chart that. But, you know, I did exactly what he said. Using coordinates, any point can be located precisely in space using the distance along the reference lines or axis from the point where they intersect. Well, like I said, his poor health was always a problem because he had a chronic cough, and then he was always poor, but they let him stay in bed. But despite the fact he was in bed, he always carried out his experiment. He did his writing, and he was not deterred by, you know, being sick and not healthy. And then this is what he said. So he had poor health, I just mentioned that, and then while he was in bed, he was watching a fly and wonders how to chart its position as it moves. He figures that every moment the fly is located at the intersection of three lines. Yeah, three lines, one going north-south, one going east-west, and one going up and down. And then he wanted to follow, and then in mathematical grid that, you know, introduced the third dimension, and that was the coordinate. Well, of course, you know, I don't want to go in detail a lot because these are a little bit complicated. So we have polar coordinate. You see, this is 360 degrees, and then we have, you know, two-dimensional, which is this part, and then we have three-dimensional, which is the most important one, and they call it Cartesian. And imagine how important this discovery is. I remember when we were in high school, they said, yeah, X, Y, Z. I said, what do you mean by X, Y, Z? And my physics teacher said, if you don't know X, if you don't know Y, you won't be able to graph. I said, what is the graph? Then he had to explain. The Sir Isaac Newton idea, force is equal to mass times acceleration. It says, what if your car is accelerating from 10 kilometers to 20, from 30, and then decelerating, and then accelerating to 80 kilometers? So you can always graph that. But now, this is 3. And then what he said, that fly was flying. If we consider this grid like a room when he was in a bed, so the fly was going from here, from there. But amazing, she was always intersecting at A. So the A is a coordinate of X, Y, and Z. And imagine in space how important that is. Without the coordinate, we get lost. And see, these are simpler ones, these are 2. So imagine, we have like here Y and A, and then the coordinate is A. No, I'm sorry. We have like 4, and this is also 4, and the coordinate is here. See, we have like a, let me see, there's another one here. Yeah, we have 3 and 3, so the coordinate is B. And I remember, you know, when we were kids, they were asking about our address, and it was easy. You know, we says, yeah, we live at the corner of Washington Street and the 4th Street. And that is also kind of coordinate. That is the best way they can find our address, because that's called intersection or cross the street. And there was no way they would get lost because they would come to Washington Street. So when they crossed the 4th Street, that's where we were. And I have to explain a little bit more. He compares the universe to a clock. He said if you have a difficulty, you have to, you know, you have to separate in 3 or 2 different things and then deal with each one logically. And this is my logical analysis. Imagine what would have happened if he was not sick, or he was not in bed. probably this coordinate would never been discovered. And imagine these days, the navigation is so good, we can, from space, we can watch on Earth 30 centimeter by 30 centimeter. Like 100 years ago, this was far-fetched. That was beyond their imagination. 30 centimeter to 30 centimeter. Now I have to explain about this amazing insect, which inspired him. I remember when I was a kid, I used to catch them. I couldn't, but they were so smart. But if you look close, you can see this is amazing insect. And then the wings are so light, they're so transparent, you can even see through it. Because I studied natural science, and I remember I was so good in natural science when I got my high school diploma. It was about animals, plant, and everything else, and then I studied physics. But I was always wondering, I mean, they don't have airfoil like birds. You know, like pigeons and the other birds. This insect is so different. Like, I've compared with wasp, I compared with, bigger ones like, bees, and the flies are so many huge flies, small flies, but always they have the same wings. And then I said, well, it's impossible. I mean, that wing is going to get broken. Especially one day I went to Wikipedia, I found out they can fly 70 kilometers per hour. That's why I was in the room in my lab. I couldn't see where they are. I could hear the voice, zzz, but I couldn't see where they are because how fast they go. And then finally I gave up. I couldn't. So there were two scientists, and they did fantastic job. I mean, this was beyond my imagination, how they discovered something so good which changed our life. These two scientists discovered the wings. I'm not talking about flies. Any wings, anything like insect, like wasp or, bees, or especially, flies. You see those lines? They discovered when they fly, what happened, the blood is getting inside those little veins and they become kind of stiff. They don't have to be airfoil. So the reason why, because they are flapping so fast, they don't have to be airfoil. But as long as those wings are stiff and good, what they can do, they can fly that fast. Well, of course, these two scientists, they got a Nobel Prize, and then we appreciate what they did. This is the way always we promote the science. See, we know the flies, how they fly, but we have no idea about the details. And I'm glad, I read that in an article, and then I admired them, what they did for their job. That was breakthrough in science. So this is the way the flies are. And then imagine, long time ago, navigation was only by compasses and lighthouses in the oceans, like 100 years ago. But nowadays everything is changed. And I remember when we had the Hubble telescope, our life was changed. We could get pictures from universe which never did before. That was exactly 30 years ago. Now we have another good one, and this is going to be another breakthrough in science. But let's see what this new does, which is in space already. I mean, anyway, they had this, but now we have this Cartesian coordinate. We can pinpoint, like I said, using coordinate. Any point can be located precisely. So we have this coordinate and everything else, and imagine this is the way we can pinpoint. And the insects are extremely smart. I remember when I was studying, I was getting my high school diploma, and then I had to work on a project for the cockroaches, and then I had no idea how smart they were. And then I was studying, I realized that is one of the amazing insects which, you cannot find such an amazing, resilient insect. Even if you cut the head, they can live like 28 days because they don't breathe through the, head is from their, stomach, through the stomach. But it's amazing insect, and then I realized when they walk, when they move on the edges, they are using one antenna only. I didn't know why. And then when they are on a flat places, they are using both antennas. They could feel the pressure of the air and everything else. And then I knew that, you know, they are amazing insects. They have to come out when it is light or when it's dark. And then I had to study, well, at that time there was no Google. And then I realized they have a biological timer. Isn't this amazing? I mean, that little insect has a biological timer. And then that is oozing a special hormone. Yeah, you know, they like 6, 7 o'clock, when it's dark, they come out. And I think that is the mystery, because like lions are so smart. When they come out when it's light, dark, then they can catch the prey easy. When they come in the light, this light they cannot, because they can see. So then I realized that biological timer is playing extremely important role. So I had to ask my friend to show me, you know, old warehouse type thing. It was a lot of cockroaches. And then I had to go there and hide. I said, you know what, this is the best way I can outsmart the cockroaches. Anyway, I went there. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it was light. I was so careful. I sit way behind the wall so they could not see me. I said, let's see if I can trick them. But I was close to the switch light, and then it was like 7 o'clock in the afternoon. It was getting almost dark and so, and then I realized they come out. And it was like 20 minutes. I watched them. They were grazing, they were going back and forth, but you know, it looks like they could not sense I was behind the wall. I was hiding. And immediately I turned on the light. I was a powerful light, and then I saw everybody was moving. They went from here, there, then they hide, all of them hide. I said, well, so far so good. Now I have to trick them again. And then, after like few minutes, I turned off the light. I waited and waited and waited. They didn't come out. I said, wait a minute. Do they sense my presence? And then I had to get in touch with the, doctor or someone, like insect, expert, I couldn't. But this is the way it was. And then I waited, they did not come out. I turned the light again, back again, and finally I gave up. Well, what I mean, how smart they are. When the light was on, they just hide, because that's the way the hormone is oozing, tell them, go ahead. But when the light was out, why didn't they come out? And finally, I came to my own conclusion that, it has to be a time, but I could not determine, because I'm not a, doctor, or, and then I could not tell how that time works. So anyway, I gave up. And I have 5 more theories for the insect and animals, and especially I have one for the plants, and those are good theories. And honestly, I have never seen in any physics books, because these are special theories, these are a special experiment, and I want, whoever watches, they can make the most of everything. And if you have any question, you have my email, you can call me even and ask questions. And if it's not beyond my expertise, I will try to explain it. Even if it is beyond my expertise, I'm a good researcher. I can Google it, I can find it, I can ask, doctors, biologists, or those guys who are specialized in insects and animals. I can ask them. But anyway, the next week is going to be 2 more theories, and then every week. And this was great success, and this is the first one for the insects I'm starting, and then I have 3, 4, 5 more, and then I will try to explain to the best of my knowledge, to the best of my ability. And I'm hoping you guys are watching this, you can learn and see amazing story of this great mathematician. And unfortunately, he did not live a lot. He was only 60 years old, and he died. But his contribution to the science was so good. And I remember when Stephen Hawking was alive, René Descartes was his favorite scientist. Because one time Stephen Hawking said, René Descartes said, when you drop a ball on the floor and the floor is coming up a little bit and then pushing, and that was an amazing idea. Well, of course, you know, our perception tells us we never seen that Earth moves. And then I came up with my own idea. I had to work in a warehouse. The concrete was the best. And then I had to drop some steel balls, and then I realized that, you know, 16 grams is accelerating more against the force of gravity, 32 less, and then 64 less, and then 150 grams much less, and then I knew that René Descartes was right. Because when I'm dropping those balls to the concrete, because of elastic collision, concrete is not 100%. I should have found steel, but it was expensive. I couldn't find it. But the concrete was doing the 80% of the job. It was accelerating back my steel balls, and then I had a tape measure I could watch, and then I realized, you know, the acceleration is inversely proportional to the mass. And it was amazing. What René Descartes said was absolutely true. Well, of course, this is so difficult. One of my theories, I have to show that chart again, and then you can see, because I had to drop the steel balls from 1 meter, and then I had to increase the velocity, and then I realized it doesn't make any difference at all, because, you know, the Earth is pushing. And then I realized René Descartes was right. The reason why I'm standing here and talking to you, because Earth is pushing on me, and then the determining value is not the gravity, is the mass. My mass is pushing 80 kilograms to the Earth, so Earth is pushing me back, so that's why we equal, and then we can stand like this, and then we don't fall. Thank you for watching, and like I said, anytime you have any questions or any concern or anything about the insects, animals, and then our inspiration from the insect, you can call us, and then I'd be happy to help you. Thanks a lot.